Lawyers. Why did that one couple call off the divorce? My parents told my sister and I that they were getting a divorce. Dad found out about his cancer before they went through with it. My mom stuck with him and took care of him through his passing. My Phil remarried his first wife so she could have health benefits through her terminal cancer. My aunt and uncle recently decided not to get divorced. He's legitimately crazy and on his fourth wife. She doesn't speak any English and is with him for his pension. This divorce started because he ran up a large amount of credit card debt buying worthless art at auction. He wanted to mortgage their shared house to pay it off, but she wouldn't sign for that because it would just make a bad situation worse. Thus he wanted to divorce her for not signing and she wanted to divorce him to secure her half of the money from his antics. They recently decided to call it off, though. My uncle's logic for calling it off was that he doesn't want to pay the lawyer's fees. He doesn't really care about losing half his money, but he's not willing to give a cent to the lawyer. My aunt's reason was that she realized she's 13 years younger than him, and that she could just outlive him and get all the money. So, they remain unhappily married. Whoa, that's fantastically and impressively ugly. Neither party recognizing that we've only got so many days on this planet and both being willing to waste time being petty. I do a lot of divorces in my practice, and typically the ones that get called off are the younger couples that decide they did not make a good enough effort to save the marriage. Half the time, I'll see the client again in about 6 months. The other half seems to work out. The only case that stands out in my memory is a case that was nearing the end. Both attorneys had put in a lot of work. Mediation had been semi-successful, and we were fairly confident we were going to be able to settle the divorce without a full-blown trial. But we knew that a couple issues might have to be decided by the judge. It was clear that the divorce was going to happen though. One day, I get a call from my client. He told me he didn't want the divorce anymore, and he gave me his reason why. I informed him that we couldn't stop the divorce from happening if his wife wanted to press forward. He told me his wife wanted to call off the divorce as well for the same reason, which I'll get to in a moment. I called OC, and he informed me that his clients wanted to call off the divorce as well, for the same reason. Apparently, both parties had been visited by God on the same night, and he demanded that they honor their vows and make the marriage work. Keep in mind both parties have spent a lot of time and money already. I asked OC what his thoughts were, and he said, who are we to argue with God? We had a good laugh, and they are still married to this day. So my deep voice through the window worked. When I was a kid, the neighbor's dad ran off, went to get cigs and never came back. He was a rich banker type and his wife was a harried stay-at-home mom with 3 boys about my age. About 10 years later and she's a real estate agent making decent money. She lost weight, dresses nice, etc. Basically the MILF next door. She has a fiance but is technically still married, so starts the legal proceedings. Guy comes back to appear in court, sign papers, etc. and falls head over heels in love again with his estranged wife. She takes him back and dumps the fiancé. My friends, the 3 boys down the street, hated their dad for leaving and couldn't believe their mom took him back. IDK how she can forgive him for ditching his entire family for years. Love is love, but he fricked over his own kids. Divorce lawyer here. Seen a few reconciliations over the years. Couple of cases I've seen. Husband completed rehab and was fully committed to sobriety. Separation where one party was living in a Marriott suite for a month, not securing own residence. Just too hard on the family going through just that transition, much less an entire divorce. 2 parents realizing that they couldn't put the kids through the process of a divorce at that time. 2 elder parties who just realized it made no financial sense to be divorced. Taxes, health insurance, etc. One thing to definitely make clear is that lawyers, for the most part, are actually happy to see 2 people not get divorced, especially if there are kids involved. Yes, we don't get paid as much, but there's always someone getting divorced. As a divorce lawyer you accept that you traffic in human misery, and sometimes it's just nice to see people staying together. Reconciliations, when it's for the best, and adoptions, those are the best parts of the job. Not a lawyer, but I worked as an assistant in a family law courtroom. down to the last 2 cases for the judge to hear for the day, and they could not have been more different. The first one was a 10+ year divorce where the 2 parties could not stand the sight of one another. Over the course of their case, the parties were belligerent to one another, the other party's legal counsel, and even towards the children if it seemed that they were on the wrong side. Throughout their many appearances in court, I honestly wondered what they were going to do with all the free time of not being in litigation when this was all over. Second couple was much younger, they did not have lawyers, and it was their first appearance for their divorce. During the first case's proceedings, the second couple stepped outside. At first I thought it was for the other couple's privacy, and didn't come in until the very end of the first couple's hearing. When they were called in, they just walked in and said they didn't want to pursue the divorce until they gave their marriage a better shot. They realized things could be much worse, and seeing a disastrous divorce put things into perspective. I did not see the second couple again while I worked at the courthouse, but eventually saw them at the local supermarket a month or so later with their kids, so I guess it's working out so far. Almost makes you wonder if setting up sham horrible divorce proceedings as a precursor to any divorce hearing might be worth the effort. My parents called off their divorce. My mom didn't make enough money to take care of the kids alone. She would have had to move us all back to our home country where she would have had family help. My dad didn't want to lose me, so they stayed together. In the end they divorced 10 years later. Not a lawyer but an assistant to a family law attorney. Had a call yesterday from a woman looking for a divorce, but was unsure how to go about it. Her husband has traumatic brain injury and therefore can't sign any legal papers himself. The reason she wants the divorce though is so that she can be paid for taking care of her husband. Apparently she can't be paid as in home care while they're married, so she decided to jump on the divorce train. Nothing wrong with that. I was live-in carer for my father and legal guardian for my siblings, and I had a wicked hard time with working, having visiting nurses, the expenses, 7 years of that it became nursing home, bankruptcy, and counseling, realizing I had no social life or support network because my existence was solely caring for 2 people. I hope it works out for her. My parents called off theirs twice. They separated and lived apart for about 6 months each time. They hid the fig thing well, as it blindsided us kids each time and it crushed my dad. Only time I've ever seen him cry was mom telling us he was moving out. In the end, each time, he just caved on his position regarding the issue because he couldn't stand not seeing us each day. My sister was the result of their last reconciliation, and the last 20 years has been the longest stint without an attempted divorce. Not a lawyer. My parents called off their divorce 3-5 times over the span of 10 years. I wanted them to split up because it was obvious they aren't meant for each other. My mom's reason for not going through with it was a typical stay together for the kids scenario. Although her and I had a rough relationship during my teenage years, and one of the times she told me the divorce was my fault. My dad's reasoning, as we found out later, was a lot more messed up. Each time he asked for a divorce it was because he was cheating and tried to leave my mom for the other woman. But every time the woman would reject him and he would go back to my mom. It was a different woman each time. They did finally divorce when I was 17, and it was messy and traumatic for everyone involved. But things are significantly better now that they are not together. When my brother and I were 15 and 17 we confronted my parents and said, if you're staying together for us, please stop doing that, you're making us all miserable. A few days later, they said they were getting divorced, and after a customary separation period, they did. Not a lawyer, but my parents called off their divorce. I'm pretty sure they weren't all that serious about the divorce in the first place, but my dad left in the middle of the night after an argument. We were having money problems, so they fought a lot, but I don't think either of them ever left the house until this point. He stupidly went to stay with his much younger, attractive student, both adults. My dad had taught her for years at TAFE. She and many other students of his have close relationships with my parents. My mum took this as a personal assault and confirmation that he was cheating, so started the divorce process. My dad got an apartment. They both struggled even more apart. My brother had a school performance and they both came. We connected. He moved back in that week and got out of his lease. They dropped the divorce. I was pretty young, so there was probably a lot that went on that I didn't see, but it seemed to me very hasty and not thought through, tbh. Not a lawyer, but my parents called off their divorce. This divorce was absolutely violent, chaotic, and tumultuous. I was 8 or 9 when it happened, and at least once a week there would be an absolutely horrendous fighting match. Their mutual hatred for each other, and for me and my sister, was only interspersed with my mother's seizures, as she has a brain tumor. Around this time, she had almost choked herself to death twice, with my dad saving her life. This is when she had the removal surgery. Things got worse and worse, though, and I was especially the source of blame. I have mild autism, and this was much more pronounced as a child. My mother had essentially spoiled me out of her concern for me, while my dad is more of the tough love type. This caused contentions, and I had heard very often how I had destroyed the family. I was left a lonely and confused child, caught in the middle of endless screaming matches, borderline physical violence, and I was the center of blame for it all. Then there was a court hearing. Almost Christmas. I was 11. I was enjoying a stay with my grandparents when it happened. I had to wait for what seemed like hours, and I was never informed on what happened. All of a sudden, I have to go to my other grandparents indefinitely. My dad had one custody. I didn't get to see my mom that Christmas. It broke my heart. Then, I spent weekends with my dad in the mountains. I never liked him, I still don't. He's quick to anger. It caused endless screaming matches between me and him, because he had blamed me and my mother for wrecking the family. He's never wrong, even when he is. At this point I had been emotionally stunted enough from my ASD, but this discord had made it worse. Eventually, this goes on and on for a year or so. Apparently, my parents come to the realization that this divorce thing isn't working. My parents, despite making a lot of money individually, had realized that they had made a downward spiral that never needed to happen. My mom needs my dad to help her navigate things with her health and finances, and my dad needs her out of love. 8 years later, and things have been unstable for the whole time. I honestly think the divorce should have happened. There is no way that this could ever have worked out well from the start. This sounds like a freaking nightmare from start to finish. Not a lawyer, but this one hits close to home. Currently divorcing my bipolar wife of 13 years because she's in a 14-month-long manic psychotic episode where she compulsively cheats with a man. That's the TL doctor. It's insanely complex. I can't stand it, and it's probably the only option. To let her completely crash and burn in her fantasy, so she may start to heal. But sometimes, for a few days, the mania recedes, and she's back, and she realizes what she's done, and she's scared of herself, of the disease, of her future, and I know she loves me, and I feel like crap, because it's like I'm putting down a sick puppy. I'm the sole earner, because she never could hold to her job due to her BP. She's going to be fricked, really fricked, and I really want to stop everything, but I know that her anxiety will creep back, and she'll have another panic attack and rush to him again. I would stop everything in a heartbeat if we could get that crap under control, but I feel we tried everything. Frick that disease. Obligatory email. My wife and I were talking to lawyers about divorce because we were not working out. Over focus on career, financial struggles, a possible affair, expectations not being met, etc. After a consultation we decided to go to a counselor. We came together because we agreed that the counselor was a complete butthole. That was 33 years ago. Still married, 3 now adult children. Love each other madly. OMG, I read that as obligatory anal. I thought that's what made the couple call off the divorce. Not a lawyer. My brother-in-law's parents were getting a divorce but then decided to wait until the last kid was an independent adult before getting divorced. They didn't let the kids know until the youngest was 16. I don't think they hated each other, but they were seeing other people after the kids knew. They let the kids know that they were basically roommates for the time being and that it was okay. They made sure that the kids didn't have to live 2 lives or pick sides. Whatever the reason was for not being together as a couple, they kept to themselves. We still don't know the reason. All I know is that none of the kids feel like it was anyone's fault, had happy lives, and love both the parents. Both parties are happy not being together and the divorce was very clean. Ianal. Friend's wife filed for divorce because a female friend of hers told her she was screwing her husband and felt really guilty. My friend denied it all the way. Day of court it came out that the wife's friend was lying. Dates that she claimed they were screwing, he was out of town on business or had proof he was doing something. Great example was he was buying car parts when she said he was screwing her. CC receipts proved it. Wife finally realizes her friend was lying to her and calls off the divorce. Much hugging and sobbing in court. They went away together for a bit and the wife dumped her friend. Turns out her friend was a nutcase who wanted her husband. People are insane. Yeah, you ruined my marriage, so I guess I'll just be with you now. I did family law for a while and one client that stuck out was this chill Rasta guy whose wife was divorcing him because of his many affairs. Now, this couple were in their 70s at the time, so I thought it was a bit weird that she waited so long. When we got to court we had to wait a few hours for the hearing. My client and his soon-to-be ex-wife spent the whole time cuddling and joking with each other. They were obviously still very much in love. After the hearing I talked to him about it and he told me that they weren't really divorcing over the affairs. Both of them had had lots of affairs throughout the marriage and they were in a quasi-open relationship. No, the reason they were divorcing was that he had gotten busted for possession too many times and because of this he had managed to rack up a bunch of debts and pending criminal matters. They had decided that if they got divorced she wouldn't have to worry about his debts and he figured he could delay the criminal proceedings by reason of family hardship, possibly until he died. I don't think their plan holds water, but it was what they wanted to do, so we helped them through a very amicable divorce. Mother-in-law died. This was a mixture of her being way too controlling of her son, and when she passed away, the wife just spent most of the time consoling her husband. Not a lawyer, but my parents called off their divorce after my half-sister admitted she lied about what my dad did. That was about 14 years ago and my parents are happier than ever. I went to high school with a girl, let's call her Abby, whose mum and stepdad had married and divorced at least 4 times. They were just getting back together for their next marriage as me and Abby drifted apart. They'd been approached by numerous magazines and talk shows about it. It still baffles me why they didn't just keep it to a relationship rather than getting divorced, remarried each time, making a huge deal about it. So expensive. Not the lawyer. They didn't call off. The woman asked for increasingly outrageous things and the guy agreed with everything. There was an agreement, and he killed her in the same night and then himself. Freaking yikes. My grandma's parents divorced when she was 4. Her mom took her to Denmark to live with her grandparents and her. My grandma grew up, came back to the US, she was still a citizen, and started a family of her own. Her dad apparently got remarried and had 4 more kids. When the first 3 of my grandma's kids were in high school, her mom came back over to live with her and my grandpa and help with the kids. Eventually, after nearly 40 years, my great-grandpa was so disillusioned with his new family, he left them all kids grown and remarried my great-grandma. They lived together happily to their mid-90s and died 8 months apart. My great-grandma was still kicking, but the doctors said she was so sad after he died, she just let herself go. She basically died of a broken heart. This doesn't quite answer the question, but man is it a weird one. P.S. My most of grandma's half-siblings hate her for no reason we can't figure out. I think the reason is obvious. Remember, an obvious answer doesn't have to be logical. Now either, but my husband and I filed for divorce around year 7 year itch, but after decided to try counseling. It actually really helped and so life went on. About a year later the divorce attorney we jointly filed with called to ask if we wanted to come in to finalize the paperwork and finish the process. We had completely forgotten about the paperwork and such, and yes, the lawyer was both happy and surprised that we decided against the divorce. Took a little while to get the automatic child support situation straightened out with the state though. Well, there was this one couple that was 100% set on a divorce. They were arguing about who would get what and what would happen to their kid and the dog. They decided that the kid would move from house to house every year because the dad was moving far away. Then they look at the dog. They both loved the dog more than anything. The one problem was the dog couldn't go in planes. The dog brought them both back together, and from what I heard they didn't argue again. Typical. Who cares about the kid? but love for the dog brings them back together, haha. Weirdest one I ever saw was the wife used filing for divorce to leverage the husband into agreeing to let her start a photography business. Husband got served. He relented. She started her photography business. No more divorce. What a healthy relationship. They never got to the point of lawyers, but when I was 8 my mom, myself and 2 older brothers went on a cross-country road trip to Michigan for a family reunion. I didn't find out until my 20s that during that trip, my dad was supposed to move out of the house and they'd be done with each other. He even had an apartment with 2 roommates lined up. I didn't even have a clue they were fighting. When we got home, he was still there. He greeted us smiling and us kids didn't know any different. I don't remember anything after that, but my mom said that she kind of broke down with hopelessness. She just left the house and walked 3 miles to her friend's house and cried there for hours. She said it's because she had her life going forward planned out and was ready to move on. But I guess he decided for them both to remain together. I didn't ask for more details. That had been hard enough to hear. Although, since we are on the same page about how much of a selfish tool my dad is, I asked her why they didn't just get divorced and her justification was that he supports us financially. Her mom never got help from her dad after their divorce, so my mom honestly thought she'd be sole as well. I didn't really understand because it was the 90s and surely he would have paid child support. I suppose I was kind of salty that she chose to stay with my dad, someone who never could accept me and made us feel miserable all the time. So I told her I would have rather grown up poor than live with him. At least we would have been free from his dark cloud. It sounds like she just wanted what was best for you and made a bad judgment call. I hope you're both doing okay. Not a lawyer. Was helping a friend of a friend move out as he was leaving his bat crap crazy GF. We're loading furniture and appliances onto a flatbed truck and get to one of those big screen TVs. This was the 90s, when they were actually big boxes. We stopped to try and figure out the best way to move and strap this thing down on the truck. The idiot goes to call the company that made it for their advice. While he's up there, GF's father stops by and convinces him to stay together. He even throws in the down payment for a house. While unloading the truck, the rest of us could not hold back our laughter. They got married and divorced about 2 years later. TLDR, a big screen TV. I've been doing divorces for a long time. I've had a few clients call off their divorces. Some because they legit had a change of heart. Some cancel because they realize they can't live with seeing their kid only every other weekend. There's also a few that cancel because they feel it's better to stay in something they know, regardless of how bad at it is. I guess they feel the status quo is miserable, but at least it's predictable. I have had a few clients ghost me. They stopped answering my calls, won't respond to any communication. Eventually, I found they got back together. Honestly, it's pretty rare for people to call off the divorce. Even when they do, they still eventually go through with it. Sad but true, at least in my experience. Not a lawyer, but my cousin just decided to back out of getting divorced. She has raised her husband's 2 boys for 10 years since they were 3 and 5, officially adopted them and all that. They have a daughter together as well. When custody came up, a lawyer told her that she will not even get visitation with the boys. 10 years raising them and making them a part of our side of the family. 10 years of substance abuse problems from their dad and the other stuff that goes with his untreated PTSD, but the lawyer says she would never be in their lives again. That's freaked up, man. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.